All right, my name is Dave Shorey. Um, Hello, everyone. I'm just starting my third week as the innovation officer in the Municipal Innovation Council, which is that's a lot there. But really, what it means is that I have an opportunity to work across multiple municipal offices, as well as the upper tier government, which is county government in Bruce County, to be able to help try and find efficiencies, to be able to locate new opportunities for lower and upper tier government to be able to serve people better, those that live in their respective communities. Ultimately, the work is to try and create happier, healthier, more prosperous communities where people can thrive. So it's pretty cool work. Before that, I worked in higher education. So for 18 years, I was working at Wilfrid Laurier University, studying or working at Wilfrid Laurier University. I worked in the Division of Student Affairs for my professional career. And it wasn't unlike what I'm doing right now, actually. It was a lot about focusing on transition and support services, worked across the division to build capacity with staff so that we could serve our students better, and worked across the institution so that we could really develop initiatives that reached out to our students and reached out to those that were interested in post-secondary education. I was able to work a lot with professional staff across North America as well, in colleges and universities that were looking to bring intention to their work. And um, I think the byproduct of that was that a lot of those programs that I was able to work with became quite innovative in their practice. And it had a lot to do with the kind of culture that they were fostering in order for innovation to occur.
Number two, and the question itself is a mouthful, so just feel free to run with it, do what you want with it.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're in this cool intersection of education and innovation. So let's start with the education piece. Um, what role does education play, or do you think it should play in driving positive change within an organization?
Hmm. Um, when I was doing my graduate work, I was in this really interesting space where I was able to actually take some courses from Laurier's MBA program as well as while I was doing my Master's of Education. And so in effect, I was doing a minor or a concentration in organizational culture, leadership, and change. And what I found from the coursework was that in order to foster change, to facilitate change, there are some universal truths, some things that apply inside education, inside the private and public sector, non-for-profit. I mean, there are some things that exist. And I think first being, and I was pulling this from the literature as well as just dialoguing coursework and those sorts of things, but um, that you need a North Star. You need to be clear on the values that you espouse, because those really drive your actions. Change is rarely the byproduct of impulsion or impulsive action, rarely. And I mean, I can go into that further if needed, but someone who is generally impulsive is often reactive, I have found in my case anyways. But to be thoughtful and deliberate about your action really matters. And that's a universal truth that I found whether I was looking at change inside education or looking at the private sector. And there's I think a really useful change management framework that I think I learned the hard way and then discovered afterwards, after a lot of challenges and doing things the wrong way and approaching things the wrong way, and not taking the time to make sure that people were aware of our current state and of a potential future state, but then really also thinking about why would it matter? Like, why would anyone want to change? Where's the desire? So there's the ADKAR model, and I'm talking about how education and change intersect and innovation. That was something that I actually picked up. I was able to become a certified change management professional, and the ADKAR model, if nothing else, if you want to Google that, that's really good. It's an acronym that stands for awareness, desire, knowledge, action, and then reinforcement. And I think all too often, we don't create the space to be able to think about someone's desire to change. We move probably from awareness to knowledge, and we actually focus on developing competencies, thinking about the skills and knowledge that someone's going to need in order to do that change. But we spend less time thinking about their desire to change. So I guess it's sort of a convoluted way of answering what's the relationship between education and change. I think that um, it, in whatever form it may look like, um, we shouldn't drive too fast to think about education as skill development and knowledge development, but instead, I feel like creating space to reflect and to engage in dialogue and to think about why it is that we're looking to affect some sort of change, to create that space, to create desire, is really important. In my previous life, not that long ago, working in post-secondary, I tried as much as I possibly could to create that space. We did seminar series every other week. We did development weeks. We were doing online learning modules. We were going to a lot of conferences, and there was intention behind all of that. And that was because we were focusing in on the things that we knew we needed to enhance our practice on, or that we needed to research and understand a little bit better. And so, yeah, it's a big question, and it's one I actually believe firmly in. And it was really rooted again in this graduate work and my ability to find that there are some things that are shared regardless of the industry.
So shifting to the innovation side of things, um, let's just start with level setting on how you define innovation, because I think a lot of people think about it in different ways.
Yeah, I think that innovation is on a continuum. It can be about incremental improvements, and it can be complete disruption. And I think that it lives on a spectrum when we're talking about innovation. And I don't think any of that's a problem. If we're innovating a particular process or a system, or gosh, we're moving from paper and pencil to something that lives online, if that makes things run better in terms of a process, I mean, look, yeah, I guess we should define what better means as well, but something where there's an efficiency in the process, it helps someone do their job better, it frees up bandwidth, creates more capacity for them to do other things. You can provide a service that is better for the user. These are all things that make that innovation useful. And so it can be, again, incremental improvements on the things that you do. And total disruption is often brought about by a significant problem. And, COVID and our response to it and our recovery efforts to it has provided a wonderful case study, regardless of your industry, in something that was so disruptive that it started to really change the way people think and do their work and how they organize themselves. So I see it on a continuum. The point of innovation really is because we all need to do the things that we do in better ways for ourselves and or for others. And we are trying to provide more value or add more value to the things that we do for ourselves and or others. And I think it's a process that holds particular values around respecting one another, around creating a space where you feel safe, so that you can take some risks and that you're clear on the value that you're trying to work towards.
Question here: how do you go about building a culture of innovation, get people to break away from this mindset that innovation and creativity are synonymous, and therefore they tell themselves the story that I'm not creative, therefore I can't innovate?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So I facilitate this workshop that's based off the Basseter Simplexity thinking model. It's a model that some are familiar with, but not everyone. I really love that model, and I've run this in a number of capacities, whether it's where I work. I do a little bit of consulting work as well to help organizations think through just problem-solving processes and to provide a system that really starts to demystify what it means to be creative and to be innovative. And I think it's a wonderful framework that highlights exactly what you've talked about. Creativity is a process that requires ideation, the thinking, the idea finding, and the action. In the absence of those two elements, you're going to have a lot of really great ideas, but no course of action. Um, and or you're going to have a process by which you're reworking failed solutions over and over and over again. We use the language firefighting. So creativity in and of itself is something that a lot of people feel they aren't creative. I know there was a study done by Adobe, and 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 people that they surveyed, and that was their customer base. So we're talking the creative types, if you want to think of it that way, when you think about Adobe products. and 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 felt like they were creative, which means that 75% of those that were surveyed that work with Adobe products never felt themselves to be creative. And so I've often tried to first say, what does creativity mean? Well, it means being able to diverge and move away from the position you're currently in to consider new possibilities, new information. Doesn't need to be really um, it doesn't need to be approached in the way that we often think about when we talk about creative types. It can be just about asking different questions and seeking new information. But then it's also about a convergent process where you're moving towards a decision so you can move forward. That's also part of the creativity process. And so for people who love to do, they're action oriented and they like to check things off the box, they're as essential to the creative process as the person who has connected a bunch of information to form an entirely new way of doing things or a new way of seeing things. So I hope that that's helpful when we're talking about what is creativity, because the whole process is an innovative process. Um, yeah, I've just got my notes here. Sorry, jammed up. Um, yeah, no, I think that's probably sufficient. You're starting from, you may have a fuzzy problem. You may have a less than clear idea about what you may want to accomplish. But the innovation is in part to take a look outwards. The belief that we have to create everything in house is often one of the things that zaps energy and creativity itself, because you're not really helping yourself to not reference whether it's the research or literature or proven practices that whether it's a competitor or someone else has done. To be able to go out and find new information just with a guiding research question is a really powerful way of approaching innovation. Then to frame your problem, identify the ideas that matter most and the facts that matter most, and create an action plan, evaluate your options. And I think the biggest piece to it is to continue to reiterate and look at your successes and build on those.
And the last one is just any books or resources or anything that you would recommend for folks that are interested in whether or not it is education, innovation, change management, um, and any of the above.
Okay, well, I think, okay, so there's one book that I've read recently that I have really appreciated, because it gave me language and a framework to the things I've believed for a long time and have done in my work for a long time. And I found the dust jacket. The book, the book is somewhere else. I know where the book is. It's not here, but it's Becoming a Deliberately Developmental Organization. So Robert Keegan and Lisa Laskow Leahy published this. Is from HBR, from Harvard Business Review. And Harvard Business Review in general does some really great stuff. But this is, I think it speaks, in a lot of ways, it summarizes the responses that I provided, but I really appreciate the way that they have argued that your place of work needs to be essentially a professional learning community. And there are ways in which on a daily basis, we can be honest with our strengths and our deficits and be able to learn together. That creates the kind of safe and trusting space for people to start to take risks. And you may find the innovation lives within the things that you're learning and you're diving into. Beyond that, I think I've got some more tactical recommendations. To build on it, find communities of practice, learning communities, or simply professional staff that are doing similar work in different companies, different organizations. If you're in the non-for-profit or public sector, other departments, ministries, other municipalities, whatever that may be. I found a lot of success in my work in student affairs, in post-secondary education, connecting with people that definitely within my immediate network, working in the province of Ontario, but outside of that province, really rich conversations and exchanges, and international as well. I have a lot of really wonderful friends down in the United States who are really good at what they do. And the secret there is, in relation to when I was working in post-secondary, we're not competing for the same student. And so we may be a little bit more open and a little bit more willing to share and build on each other's resources and really co-develop something, because we're not competing for the same person. That really actually opened up some wonderful space for me to learn and there to be some co-learning there, because there was this, it removed all barriers. It was wonderful. Um, the other thing is I am a lifelong learner, and I think that there are certain certifications or courses or programs that are really helpful. And I know that you had asked about readings, but I really appreciated ProSize change management certification. I thought that it really provided a really robust set of tools to be able to think about change management, which is really synonymous with innovation. The IDOU courses that are offered online, I don't know if I've seen a learning management system quite so effective at delivering course content. They've been really, really great platforms to engage in. I did designing effective strategy last, and I just felt like the way that they organized the course was really well done. And you connect to a much broader community of learners that are in all sectors worldwide. So I thought that was really great. And the last recommendation, again, this is again a very tactical sort of recommendation, but ICA Associates, they're down in, they have a number of offices, but they have one down in Toronto. And they do a number of wonderful courses that are typically 2-3 days long. They may have some week-long ones, but I did the facilitative leadership certification, and that really gave me a lot of the tools to be able to facilitate conversations and to hold space where people were together and they were able to start to innovate and really think outside the box. And in a lot of ways, it was the wisdom of the group that really spurred a lot of the innovation. So it was about creating that space and being effective at asking good questions.
What is your number one tip for somebody who is interested in getting into barbecue?
Into barbecue. Okay.
Yeah.
Number one tip. Well, see, everyone would say establish your budget. And I'm not saying that's bad advice, because it is good, because especially with barbecue these days, there are so many options that can become totally overwhelming. But I think the first thing you want to do is ask yourself an honest question. Do you want to tinker on an hourly basis? Do you want to watch the grill, fiddle with the vents? Do you want to do that? Do you want to burn coal, which is what we're doing? It's amazing how much, speaking of innovation, how much we have innovated in terms of energy, and we're back to burning coal so we can make our food taste good. But do you want to do that, which I love? I mean, I don't relax well, and so this has kept me in one spot for multiple hours. This is a good thing for me. Or do you want the convenience of being able to perhaps remotely control your grill, be able to step away? You can lock it in at a particular temperature, in which case you could take a look at those like pellet cookers, which are also really good. I mean, the food tastes good regardless. I do a couple barbecue competitions, and the last one, we were in this rib competition last fall before things kind of changed. And the guy that won, his ribs were cooked on a pellet smoker, and they were unbelievable. So anyone who thinks that it's only charcoal that's going to win you stuff, it's incorrect. Not that you may be wanting to compete. So anyways, I'd just be honest with yourself about that, because then you can go and you can take a look at different options. For charcoal options, that Weber Smoky Mountain, it's a good value for dollar right there. I like that. And then the Traeger products, Weber's got some good stuff. It's pellet smoke, or pellet driven, Broil King. It's all good stuff there.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Hey, Shorey, you just made a relatively significant life decision. Pretty big career shift. What would you say to other people that are at this point in their careers where they can continue down the path they're on, or they can make a bit of a, take a little bit of a fork in the road and make a bit of a different decision, and then within that answer you can frame up what your decision was going into the consulting thing, right? So my intention, the question is, like, there's people that ask themselves and struggle with this all the time. Right. And so hearing other people's thought process that help them through it is always considered valuable. And then you can make a backdoor mention of what that was for you in terms of going down this consulting path.
Okay. Well, I can answer it. Can I answer it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the question. Um, that's good. I appreciate it. um, yeah, I should first qualify my answer by saying Wilfrid Laurier University is a really special place to work. And there's a reason why I stayed there for a really long time. Maybe it's another way of saying it is they had me for a long time. They allowed me to be there for a long time. Um, that because of the things that I was able to do based on what I believed in, and my values were very congruent with the work that I was doing um, at Laurier, and it was because I lived the experience of a student there, where I felt so out of place in the first days of being on campus, and that it was the impact of those that I then was able to work with. I myself was able to be a professional living in, and then to be able to support others that were supporting students who were just as confused and overwhelmed in their first days. And there's going to be people that are going to really feel that way in the next couple of weeks, and it's only been compounded by the experience that people have had for the last 5 months. Anyways, this is turning into a love letter for Laurier, but um, there's a reason why. I mean, the space that I was provided, I feel like I was successful in because of the support that I received and the space that I was given. And I've worked with a wonderful team, smart people. Uh, but there's this positive restlessness that continued to grow. And I've always described myself as positively restless. And I think that's a healthy thing. But you got to get your handle around it sometimes. Like positive restlessness can come off as a couple other things. And so, I think ultimately realizing that no one else is in control of my career but myself. There's a ton of people that have helped me along my path. I definitely didn't get here on my own, and no one has. But that combination of positive restlessness and where I had been able to realize successes really got me to this place where I found myself searching a little bit more for a new challenge, a way to potentially, hopefully, impact another community, other people that want to find value in their work or meaning in their work. Um, of course, it goes off. Um, anyway, so that to me was the driving factor. And I had someone that actually was reaching out to me to say, hey, this is this opportunity for you to come up to Bruce County and to take a look at this innovation officer position. So it was a significant shift from education, but in some ways the principles are the same. But I chose at that time to start up as a consultant because there were things that I had been able to achieve across post-secondary with other colleagues at colleges and universities, helping them figure out ways that they would want to build capacity in their organization, and to be able to create the kind of frameworks to be successful and to have impact. My daughter's now screaming because I've been away from her too long, but yeah.